过去的日子，我们的生活被距离感重新定义，病毒将我们困在局促的物理空间，个体通向外部世界的通道几乎被关闭。然而，当种种不确定开始成为不得不面对的常态时，我们却比以往更感受到对话与连接的力量。这一次，我们将真实的世界作为课堂，将开放的对话作为教育的起点，将目光投向人类文明的粒粒星辰。置身广袤的知识星空下，在对多元声音的聆听和思考中，在一次次的发问、交锋和碰撞中，不断拓展对自我、他人和时代的理解与想象，向更宽阔、更深刻的世界走去。耀中耀华倾情呈现星空说系列，3月开启，敬请期待。
我是于立中，很高兴作为星空说的第一位演讲嘉宾。
各位来宾、
Dear
现场的老师们、
teachers,
同学们、
students,
家长们、
parents
大家
on
下午
site,
好。
good afternoon.
这里是由耀中耀华打造
This
的
is
星空说系
Yuchang
列活动首
Yuhua
场。
Planet Leadership Series, the very first session. We are webcasting from the Lingang
我
campus.
是今天活动主持人，也
This
是
is
耀中耀华的
Ivana,
代表
your moderator, on behalf of Yuchang Yuhua.
Honorable Professor Yu, friends of Yao Chung and Yao Wa, good afternoon. I would like to express my gratitude and extend a warm welcome to all of you for spending this special occasion with us. To introduce myself, I'm Jerome Gakes. I'm the Western Co-Principal for Yao Wa Lingang, and I'm the Education Director for Yao Wa and Yao Chung. It is our privilege to host this special occasion on our campus at Lingang today, and we hope that you really enjoy this important event with us.
站在我旁边的呢是我们耀华
Standing next to me is our Western co-principal, Jerome Gakes, who is also the education director of Yuchang Yuhua. He extends his warmest welcome to all of you, and it's such a pleasure for all of us to host the very first session of PLS. Many friends have asked me over the recent days why we are hosting PLS and why is it called Planet Leadership Series. As you all know, Yuchang Yuhua has been in 90 years. We're celebrating the 90th anniversary next year. Over our journey, we've always believed that good education takes place not just within the classrooms, but also in the open world, in the open dialogues. That is why we hope to create more lasting learning opportunities and scenarios. And PLS is such an attempt. We think that all of the guests and the expertise and knowledge they represent are just like stars in the sky, shining so bright and guiding us towards a better future.
Well said. I look forward to all the connections created under the Planet Leadership Series. Since the pandemic, the world has weathered many challenges of many magnitudes that have taught us a very important lesson: the indispensable value of human connections. We hope that our parents, teachers and students, and of course our online audience, will benefit from the interactions today and the first session in our series of Planet Leadership.
Jerome 说呢，他对星空说创造的
As Jerome puts it, he looks forward to the connection created by Planet Leadership Series. Against the backdrop of pandemic, he sees how precious and irreplaceable of interpersonal connections. Without further ado, let's welcome our very first keynote speaker, Professor Yu Lijong. He is the founding chancellor of NYU Shanghai, the first international research university launched through Chinese-US cooperation education. Before that, he was the president of East China Normal University and Shanghai Normal University, with a lot of respect. Now let's welcome Professor Yu. He is going to talk about how is education going to embrace a changing world.
各位老师、各位同
Teachers,
学、各位
students,
家长、
parents,
朋友们，大家
my
下
dear
午
friends, good afternoon. It is a huge delight for me to have this opportunity. Being invited by YCYW, I feel so much joy in sharing with you today on the topic of how does education embrace the changing future. This is a philosophical topic. We are living in a fast-changing world. Last year, the unexpected global pandemic had an outburst. Some countries have gone through nationalism, and this world today is filled with even more uncertainties. Many of our parents and students might be wondering, in this world, in this day and age, how does education embrace the changing future? Do we redefine success? Against all the changes, what is the value of studying abroad? And how does basic education address the changes taking place in the world? How do we seek more values as we grow and develop? So these will be the topics that I'm going to explore with you today. I'm going to share all my insights, my ideas. What is the world that we're living in? I'm sure you all have different understandings. Personally, I think there are three phrases that can generalize the world that we are living in today. The three phrases might offer more challenges and opportunities to education today. First of all, I'm sure you all recognize that this is the time of globalization. Over the recent years, we've seen some changes, but I believe globalization has never stopped. It's constantly moving forward. The world today, in education, in culture, in economy and trade, in politics, globalization has never stopped and is posing deep influences over all the countries. This young generation that we have today, when you go to work, you have to confront such challenges. You will deal with colleagues who come from a different cultural background, and you will be dealing with global challenges, especially considering the changes taking place today. We have to have a broader perspective when we think about how we are going to deal with the human challenges. So, there is the concept of global competence, which requires school education to help us groom the global competence, to expand our horizons, to help us understand better and deeper the questions confronting mankind. How are people from all different countries work together to address such common challenges? So that's the first key word, the time of globalization. That is the time we're in. Secondly, I'm sure you all feel this personally and deeply. We're in a time of information. There's computers, internet, mobile communication, which all change our lives deeply and also changed education deeply. So against that backdrop, how are we to better make use of all these different information sources and think about our work, our jobs, our studies, especially over the recent years as big data develops and evolves, artificial intelligence evolves. Now we see more application scenarios. So when it comes to education, how are we to make use of all these various data and analysis and leverage artificial intelligence to work better? So we should be more competent with data analytics. End of last century and beginning of this century, we've been talking about knowledge economy. We've been talking about how science and technology changes our society. And considering that, no matter what kind of education we've been through, high school, university, postgraduate, it's impossible for one to claim that their education is enough to prepare them for all the upcoming challenges. What do? We have to have lifelong learning. For the young generation today, how do we learn how to study? How do we master the learning skills, learn to work with others, or work independently? How do we develop our lifelong learning skills? That is of utmost importance nowadays. So that is my understanding of the time where we're at. It's a globalized time, it's a time of information, it's a time of knowledge economy. So, in this day and age, our traditional education beliefs is being challenged. Our learning methods must be updated constantly. Our talent nurturing models is also confronted by challenges. We must innovate because the society has such diversified needs for talents. So when we nurture our kids, how do we adjust our models and skills and methods to the new time? We must be innovative. Our students, for each and every kid. And we want our kids to have better challenges for educational beliefs, for learning methods, and I would like to talk about educational beliefs. What has changed? Nowadays, many parents would what are we to do for the development around us? The kids next door, what are they learning? What about the kids to the other side? What kind of training classes are they taking part in? The parents are so anxious because it's like a theater effect. If someone stands up in the middle of a theater, the people behind that person must stand up as well in order to see. Who are we competing over? What is success? Is it getting in a great school, a great primary school, a high school, a university, and finally get a great job? Is that success as we believe in? Let's contemplate over that question for a little while. In our time, I think different people have different understanding for success and talents. Most fundamentally, what I believe in personally, do I have a sense of achievement? Do I feel happy? Do I think there's a value to my life? If each and every student and parent find their answer to these questions, we will find our new definition for success. We want a wonderful life, no matter which job we take, no matter what type of education I get. As long as I feel that my value is being manifested, as long as I make my contribution to the society as much as possible, that is defined by me as success. So I really want to recommend a book to the students and parents. Lifelong Studying, Redefining Success. It puts forward two different kinds of thinking methods. One is the fixed model, the other is the growth model. As you can see from this slide here, when confronted with challenges, changes, and learning tasks, there are differences across the two types of thinking models. It's two types of attitudes. If we think someone's intelligence, capabilities are determined at birth, then throughout the course of development they won't be changed, and there is no willingness to change. That means you have the fixed type of mentality. However, if you think everything can be changed with your personal efforts, you can get what you want in your life with efforts, and you will overcome all the challenges as long as you're willing to and you work hard towards it. That means you have the growth mentality. I'm sure all of you here can see clearly. We want the growth mentality because it's going to empower our lives with more joy, and it encourages us to constantly challenge ourselves, to embrace possible changes, and find our own success. Now, in an era of information, of globalization, how should education change? How do we change our learning methods? When it comes to studying today, we often think of classroom teaching and classroom learning because there are schools, there are syllabus, there are classrooms. So naturally, we are so used to studying in classrooms. But is that all? Our society, the network, the internet, a lot of our social practices, these are all learning occasions. Even among classmates and students, we can learn from each other. As Confucius puts it, whenever there are three people, at least one of them can be my teacher. So the classroom is limited, but the online internet world is unlimited. The society is unlimited. So if we can learn online, if we learn in society, if we consider all of these as learning platforms, we can continuously improve ourselves. And that is the demand by our society for us to have lifelong learning. And when we start working, we will be more confident to cope with all the upcoming challenges. And we will find eternal success. So, in this time and age,
自主学习的能力、信息应用的能力、学科交叉的能力、社会实践的能力、数字技术与数据分析的能力等等，成为今天这个时代对我们每一个未来的人才是提出了更高、更新的要求。如何去面对它？这就是我们需要不断地改变我们的学习模式，能够在社会的实践过程当中，利用我们的在线的技术，当然同样的要利用着我们在课堂学习的过程当中，能够不断地提升自己，让自己成为一个能够面对各种学习挑战的这样的一个人才。好，现在我回到第二个问题。那么大家都在说，今天这个全球变化、世界变化太快了，我们出国留学还有没有价值？是不是需要重新认识我们出国留学的这样的一个途径？如果我们想到的出国留学，
we think of studying abroad as a process to obtain an experience living in another country or changing our nationality or something that helps us get a better job in China. Well, I have to say, that is something that was true in the past, and that will be valid only for a very small group of students, not true for the majority of us. So, apart from learning knowledges and skills, what else? What else can studying abroad offer us? I would like to highlight a few, which I have personal experience. I got my PhD in the UK. I spent 5 years doing my postdoc in England. And I feel that studying abroad can expand our horizons, can help us build intercultural communication skills. It is so helpful. And when we talk about international education, it is also a process for us to rediscover ourselves, for us to be more innovative. By studying abroad, we get to experience different learning methods and modules so that we can be more competent in a global context, and we will have the critical thinking skills, and we will acquire more sense of social responsibility. Despite the challenges in front of us, despite the changes taking place in the world, we have to recognize that change is the only thing that doesn't change. I hope that all the students and all the parents will stay faithful to your life decisions. Studying abroad, for those families that can afford it, is a great opportunity for you to get exposed to various cultures. And learning in such an environment, you will harvest a lot more than what you expected. Suggestions I would like to give you. First of all, we should protect the curiosity and interest in studying. During the basic education years, this is a critical stage for a person's development. If we only think about exams and tests and compromise the curiosity and interest in studying, that will have a lifelong damage on our children. So for the parents and for the students during the basic education years, please preserve your curiosity. Maintain that interest. School education for different grades and years, it is designed for the most generic age groups. It offers knowledges and skills, but it won't be able to customize itself to each and every member of the student. So it is the responsibility of the parents to give more care and attention to your children, so that you will identify and discover what interests, what hobbies, what passions they have, and encourage them to develop such interests and habits, so that they will develop better as an individual. And also, we should groom a growth mentality. Let's not be so focused on just the academic performances, but instead encourage them to address challenges and embrace the future. During that process, we will constantly adjust ourselves to the possible challenges and frustrations and develop different sorts of skills. Next, for a child to develop the learning methods and the learning habits, I think, are maybe more important than grasping the knowledge, because we want our kids to have lifelong learning skills. If they have good learning habits and methods, that's something that's going to benefit them for life. They know where to get the information and knowledge they need. They know amongst difficulties, how do they get help. That is my third message to all the parents and students. Message number 4 is that I hope the kids will find their goal in life and know how they can work towards achieving that goal. If a life course, if we think of it as a marathon, then the parents can be with the kids maybe for the first third of the course, and for the rest of the journey they have to rely on themselves. The knowledge, the skills, the competence, these are very important for our children, but their life values is the most fundamental motivation. If, as they learn, they can continuously improve and deepen their understanding of the world, and find the value that they seek in life, that is something that's going to motivate and benefit them for life. Well, my time is limited. These are the messages that I want to share with you. And during the Q&A session, I look forward to hearing more questions from you. Thank you. Thank you, Professor, for the very genuine, sincere talk. Please be seated. The 20-minute talk is very brief. I'm sure there is still a lot that we wish to explore with Professor. So we have a panel session. I would like to invite two student companions to join me. They are from the 12th grade in the Lingang campus, Emma and Harry. Welcome. Say hi to the audience. Please be seated. Welcome. Professor. How do we redefine success? And a very important message is about the changing value of studying abroad. Both of the students here, they've talked with me about their concerns, well, their expectations and excitement about studying abroad, and they are also very interested in your experience of learning in Liverpool. Emma, maybe you want to start with your question on behalf of the students? Professor, hi, I'm Emma. Listening to your talk, I really want to ask you about your experience studying in the UK, because a few years ago, I studied in the US, and I experienced a lot of culture shock and conflicts. So my question for you is, when you were studying abroad back then, in a time where there were not many Chinese students studying abroad, what was your motivation behind making the decision? And is there anything that gave you a particular shock culturally? In 1985, from 1985 to 1990, I studied in the UK in the University of Liverpool. I did my PhD and postdoc. Back then, very few international students from China were there. There were 7 Chinese students back then. 3 were getting their diploma, and 4 were visiting scholars. I was studying geography because I studied environment. I was the very first Chinese student ever since liberalization in that school. So I had to socialize with people of other nationalities from day to day, and we learned about culture shock from day to day. So we were mentally prepared before we went there, but once I was there, I met the students there, I met the faculty there, I felt really confident. Why? Despite culturally, we have a lot of differences. When it comes to our understanding and ideas with a lot of topics, we have differences, but we are all human beings, and we have a lot of commonalities. There are so much topics that we can talk about. So I made full use of the time studying abroad to understand the British culture, to understand the social progress there. After a year, I was the student chair of the Chinese Student Union there. So we reached out to the local enterprises and organizations, and they were very, very nice to us. And as China, because China was rising back then, they were very friendly to us. For example, Unilever and Ford and Pure Kings. A lot of the established enterprises there, we paid a visit. We also visited BBC 4 in Liverpool, and we even visited the jail there. So that was a great experience for us to understand the British culture, about their social structure. But it was not just a passive process of accepting what's true there. We also took it as an opportunity to reflect upon the development path of China. We thought about what might work for China and what might not. You just talked about culture conflicts or culture shock. For me, I felt the value of studying abroad. Of course, there will be culture shocks. And we've came across several such situations because, back in 1985, the reform and opening up in China was just beginning. So I would tell my British fellow students about the reform that China was going through and what was like in the past, what's happening now. So a lot of British fellow students told me maybe we will try to get a job in China in the future. I thought they were joking, but that is actually true nowadays. It's not just international employees coming to China, but rather globalization connects people from different cultural backgrounds. We have a lot of opportunities nowadays. A lot of Chinese people go to other countries, and people from other countries come to China for employment. It's a process of cultural communications and exchange, and such a process enables the world to develop better, more harmoniously, and it gives us higher hope for peaceful development. I hope that studying abroad and intercultural communication can help us deepen understanding across boundaries, and we will have more collaborations, and the human society will be more harmonious, and that peace will last for longer. That is my hope in the younger generation. And like I said just now, I truly encourage the young generation, if situation allows, try to expose yourself to other cultures as much as possible. This is going to help us understand the world better, and this is going to help us develop our intercultural communication skills. One thing to add here. We had a communication with a professor earlier, and he told us how he captured the heart of fellow students with delicious food, which was quite interesting. You cook wonderfully, and during special festivals, he will cook the entire table of big meals, a feast for the other students. I was the very first Chinese students in the School of Geography in our university. They groomed 3 academicians of China who got the PhD there. But after liberalization, that connection was stopped, and I was luckily the very first Chinese student to resume that connection. So once I went to the school, I would say almost every member of the faculty has invited me to visit their homes. So I wanted to show my appreciation, but unfortunately I couldn't afford meals in a restaurant. So for a year, I found a person from Shanghai who went to the UK during the time of the Second World War and established a family there laterwards. He was a bar manager. So when I was looking for accommodation for a friend, that person from Shanghai told me that we could live upstairs of the bar, and I made use of that opportunity. You know that when you study abroad, they have a lounge in the bar. They have lounges and they have pubs, and the nice places, they will have a VIP room. So I invited the 60 members of the postgraduate students and faculty to enjoy a meal cooked by me. I made 1 soup, 8 dishes, 3 desserts. I cooked the entire meal, but a professor helped me. I used to be a very great cook. If you want my menu, I can share it with you. Have you all heard? A must-have skill for studying abroad, cooking. But of course, we have a lot of opportunities to learn that. Harry, my question, well, just now I heard you talk about redefining success and competition, and you said, you told us to think about our motivation of studying abroad. My question for you is, have you identified any common qualities or advantage across all the international students? And as there are more and more of international students from China, how do we maintain our core competitiveness? Yes, there are many Chinese students studying abroad. I was communicating with an employee from ETS, and she told me that each year there are 600,000 students taking the exam. So we have many students going abroad to study, and also many of the students return from outside of China. So studying abroad can mean different things for different people, especially for people with different thinking models. I am really delighted to see your excellent students here, like the two of you. I see that they have a very positive outlook on life, and I believe they have a great value in life. They are not just seeking a short-term benefits from studying abroad, but instead they look forward to becoming better persons via studying abroad. I believe that when you go study abroad, and maybe when you return from other countries to China, you will be very, very great talents. So if we compare ourselves with those who never left China, what would be our advantages? Of course, that might be different across people, but there are several commonalities. One is your vision, your perspective. The higher you stand, the farther you see, and the broader your horizon. This, in a sense, determines how far you can go. For some people, they are narrow-sighted. They only think about the immediate returns. It is very difficult for these people to travel far because they can be easily satisfied with very little benefits, immediate benefits. Studying abroad, on the other hand, gives an opportunity to stand higher and see farther and see the world better. I've always believed that education enables us to see more. Studying abroad helps us to see more even better because you get exposed to different cultures, you meet people from different cultural backgrounds. That definitely contributes to a broader vision. Secondly, the intercultural communication skills and collaboration skills, even not cross-cultural, even within the same culture. We still see challenges when it comes to communication. And for those who can communicate better, they are more likely to be successful. We've been talking about IQ and EQ. For me, if we want to be competitive in the job market, if we don't have the skills of collaboration and communication, then you're more likely to be successful because these are very important skills. And studying abroad gives you a great opportunity to work with and communicate with people from different backgrounds and people from the same cultural backgrounds. So I believe at least on those 2 points, you will be more competitive. And of course, there's the language factor. When you study abroad, your English, for example, will be more fluent, much more fluent than those who stayed in China. I believe what Professor means is that we should stay sincere and continue our exploration towards success. How to define success? I believe we have different understandings, but we are very optimistic towards the future. If you think that you've harvested something good and meaningful from life, if you think your value in life is manifested, that's great, that's very important. Well, Professor Yu started NYU Shanghai, and he's been in the university for 8 years, and you've witnessed generations of graduates from NYU and also international students coming from outside of China. So when you think of your definition for success, is there any individual that left you a deep impression? For example, with perspectives and visions and intercultural communication skills. NYU Shanghai so far has had four batches of graduates, undergraduate students, and also postgraduate as well. This year is is the year for us to have the 5th group of graduates. When I communicate with them with press and media, I talk about how the university graduates going to postgraduate studies and employee and the job market, and we have such competitive data, unparalleled. Our students who seek postgraduate studies, they go to the most prestigious universities. Last year, 70% of them went to postgraduate programs. And on average, each member gets 3.5 offers. And they enter the top-notch universities. But I've been telling the press, this is not the thing that made me most proud. What makes me most proud is that our students have truly identified the value and meaning in life. When they seek their future path, they know clearly what is the thing that they want and how are they to prepare themselves for it. I have some examples here. There's a student of ours who is admitted by a very famous multinational company. I'm not going to mention the name. And one time during lunch, I asked, "Are you going?" Because you get the offer. And that person told me, "Professor, I'm not going to that company. I only applied for the job because I wanted to prove myself." So I asked, "What is it that you want? When you graduate, where do you want to work and what is your expectation for salary?" And the student said, "That's not how I think of it. Over the 4 years of studies in NYU, Shanghai, I know clearly what is it that I want and how do I get it." So I asked, "Where would you go?" Eventually, the person told me that he went to Zhenge Fund. It was created by Xu Xiaoping in Beijing. It's an angel investment fund. Back then, there's Shanghai 3 employees. One of the 3 being my student. And the student told me I was the early adopter of NYU Shanghai because he was one of the earliest students recruited by us. And so daring and become one of the first group of students in NYU Shanghai. And the same mentality applies to my first job. I am willing to try something new. So he took the job. A year later, he sent me a text telling me that he's getting another job. Glad to see that this student is going to help the company that they invested in become stronger. During the time of the pandemic, I saw that during the time of the pandemic, that company shipped their robotics to Wuhan to help treat the patients. And in a lot of office buildings in Shanghai, they are using their robotic products as well. I think it was a very daring move. Do we have enough time for me to talk about another student? Well, another student of ours was given an offer by Harvard. He studied computer science. And a student, it's a girl, her mom posted on WeChat that my daughter has got a Harvard offer. 1 minute later, her mom posted, "My daughter says she's not going to Harvard because she applied for several universities. And she said that if I get the offer from Carnegie Mellon, I will go there." And she did get the offer. She got 6 offers, and she chose Carnegie. So I asked, why this university? For a lot of her students, Harvard will be the most prestigious institute. But she said, "I am interested in computer science. I know that Carnegie has the best program in computer science. So for a young student to approach a question like that, to approach a decision like that, that is way beyond our traditional metric. So I would say that is the type of students that we hope to groom in NYU Shanghai. They know clearly what they want in their life and how to achieve their purpose, how to show their value. They know what to do. Thank you. I'm sure to sum up, there will be 2 key words or phrases. 1, understand yourself. 2, becoming yourself. So on that, I conclude this panel discussion session. I believe a lot of our audience on the line are looking forward to asking questions, and also we have friends with the press who are also looking forward to communicating with you. The next Q&A session will be a time and opportunity for us to answer their questions. The inaugural session of PLS is supported by ETS TOEFL. TOEFL is a test supported and recognized by 150 countries and more than 11,000 universities. We also want to thank the support by CIBS and Kankan News by SMG, as well as Migu. So maybe the first question of the Q&A session will be open to ETS TOEFL. Show me your hand. We've met just now. Please, I would ask you to try to be brief. Thank you very much, Professor Yu, for your sharing. I benefited hugely. You just talked about intercultural communication skills, and you talked about language competence. That is something that the industry and the parents think about a lot. When you see international education and basic education, there's the intercultural communication skills and language competence, because I am with an organization that works in the language training industry. My question for you is academic English competence. How important is it for students to be successful academically? Well, I will talk about NYU Shanghai as an example. We have half Chinese and half international students. When they enter the university, all of them ask questions. The Chinese students often ask, in this university, because everything was taught in English. So the international students will have an advantage over them, and they are already used to the Western educational model with a lot of interactions and discussions. So are the Chinese students disadvantaged in such a context? And the international students, they also ask, we heard that Chinese students are so hardworking. Comparatively speaking, we are more casual. So do you think that the international students are disadvantaged when it comes to GPAs? So at the inauguration ceremony, I told them, you all see your strengths and you all see your weaknesses. Language for Chinese students is definitely the #1 obstacle. And also, the different learning model will be another challenge for the Chinese students, because they are not yet used to the discussions and interactions in class. But when it comes to studying professional English, it will be challenging in the first year. But starting from the second year, I believe it will no longer be a problem. Students nowadays, they are highly competent in English, so they will have no problem communicating. But the professional vocabulary is something that they need to work hard on. So we offer a 1-year training on professional English, English for professional studies. That is a course that we offer, so that very soon they will grasp the vocabulary in mathematics, physics, social sciences, etc. I believe professional English is very important, but it will not be an obstacle for Chinese students as long as you work hard. And we encourage those students who are interested in studying abroad to come and join Yuchang Yuhua. Especially for those of you who grew up with us, I'm sure you will have no difficulty using the language. A lot of our students, upon graduation, English is almost their mother tongue. Our second question is open to 看教育. Good afternoon, Professor Yu. This is Zhang Nan with 看教育. Just now you talked about studying abroad will help build global competence and intercultural communication skills. And we all know that studying abroad is great. But if the parents haven't made up their mind yet, can our students still manage to acquire such skills if they decide to stay inside of China? Can they also develop such? Would these students who stay in China be able to acquire such skills? Well, international education, that is not a patent by particular institutes and universities. Universities in China also help to groom such skills and capabilities. The question is how to achieve that purpose. I think the Chinese universities, in these universities, some students enjoy international level education. We have the 2+2 programs, we have international exchange programs, so some students benefit, but not all of them get to have such opportunity, because a lot of universities have students, well, more than tens of thousands of university students. Not all of them get to enjoy the opportunity of international exchanges. So if the families and parents, they can find partners maybe over internet, that will be a great opportunity to conduct intercultural communication. Well, Yuchang Yuhua, it is an international school, so students here will have more opportunities. If they decide to study abroad, they will naturally go to a place with diverse cultural backgrounds. But that doesn't necessarily say that students graduating from such schools will be more competent in intercultural communications. It all depends on what you do as an individual. As I said, I studied in the UK from 1985 to 1990. But a lot of Chinese students there, they decided to study English from television because they were too shy to speak. I was 29 when I went to university, and there were some fellow students who were already in their 30s when they started their university education. They felt so embarrassed by their awkward English, so they would rather learn English from a television and read books. Communication skills was something that they almost gave up. I remember deeply because in the UK there was this tea break, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and you had to pay for it. I got the national allowance, £200 a year. As you can imagine, I had to live a very modest life in the UK because I need to use the budget for house renting, for my meals, and all the daily necessities. So I was on a tight budget. A lot of the students, Chinese students, were unwilling to pay for the tea time. They would rather make tea in their own rooms. But I thought that the tea time break was a great opportunity to conduct intercultural communications. So I was very happy to spend that 10 pennies or 20 pennies in the tea break room and chat with the professors and fellow students. It was not about the tea, it was about the communication, it was about listening to how other people talk about various topics. For me, it was a great opportunity because I only got the allowance for a year, just the first year. I had to get a scholarship in order to survive there, and I met my mentor there in the tea break room. My mentor said, "Why don't you come to my lab? I'm going to offer you a scholarship." So I applied for the OLS scholarship and university scholarship. I got both so that I could complete my PhD studies. and the postdoc projects with my mentor. That's how I got my opportunity. The reason I talk about it is that we, of course, have the opportunity to study abroad, but can we make full use of it? It all depends on what you do. Yes, I believe some people can make the most use of limited opportunities. We have 3 minutes left, and we want to open to 2 questions. Maybe one to a student here in the room. Raise your hand, please, and we will pass you a mic.
那就请我们的 Sarah 同学了。
Maybe Sarah? Harry and Emma are both students in the student union in Liga. They communicate with their fellow students very frequently. So I believe Harry and Emma's questions were already asked on behalf of the students here. Well, don't be afraid. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions. Seize it. Good afternoon, Professor Yu. My question for you. Well, you just talked about success. You talked about that we should become the better version of ourselves and find our goals. For me, there's 1 year left for me to make my university application. I am a little bit confused. I don't know what kind of person I want to become. And my life values is not quite certain yet. So what do I do to discover myself? I didn't fully get your question. You are graduating next year, right? And you are still not quite sure about what university to apply for and how to do it. I won't talk about the technicalities because your school will give you instructions on that. But a very important thing is that each and every one of us is competing against ourselves. Let's not get obsessed of what your fellow students do, which universities they get in, what are their academic performance. Just look at yourself. Focus on yourself. And what makes your goal seeking easier? How do you help yourself become better? Discovering your true interest is very important. Well, for a lot of American universities, you don't even have to choose your discipline or major in the first year. If you're not sure about what you're interested in, for example, NYU Shanghai, we allow our students to decide a major towards the end of the second year. And that is true to a lot of American universities. You don't have to decide right now, you don't have to decide in the first year. And after you get the liberal education, you will gradually understand and identify the subject that you're interested in. And then you can make a confident decision. So there's no way to be overly worried about this. Instead, challenge yourself to get what you want. You are only competing against yourself, never benchmark yourself against others. I believe you will make more confident decisions that way. Thank you. There's no hurry. You can allow yourself time to explore. Our last question goes to Hamba, a reader from the US, who left a comment and said, we all agree that the capabilities are more important, but it takes a lot of time to develop. What are parents to do to help the children identify the area of their advantage instead of overburdening them with academic pressures? Well, the parent here, I think maybe he studied in a university in China, because that is a common issue with Chinese education. Recently, the education organization, Education Department of China, have issued a lot of circulations, and there are a lot of talks about educational reform, because the criteria can be different across countries. if we don't change the criteria of assessing our children, it might be very difficult for us. Now everything is determined by the academic performance, what university you get in, what type of job you get. But does exams mean everything? From a professor from the Institute of Education in Harvard, because I attended this forum, he spoke before me, and the professor said, exams nowadays, if we think of exams as a way to measure IQ, exams nowadays can only test 2 aspects of all 6 aspects. So our intelligence consists of 6 aspects, and the exams nowadays can only test 2 of the aspects. The rest 4 are neglected by the exam system. So there are a lot of great talents who didn't get appreciated by exams. So definitely we need to seek reform to the exam systems. We must jump outside of the box of the academic performance, which is defined by points and credits. So from that perspective, I hope that parents would put down their high requirements and standards for academic performance. Now, more than 50% of the students enter universities, so we can say that as long as you're willing to, you will get into university. It's just a matter of the university ranking. What type of encouragement should we offer to the students, to the kids, to help them stay confident? Because we don't want to get over-obsessed with what types of university we get in. It doesn't define us in any education environment. As long as you're confident, as long as you're willing to work hard, you will always find your opportunities. So that will be my response to the parent here on the line. Jump outside of the box and truly understand the challenge. You have a great opportunity. Just now you asked me why did I decide to study abroad. It was not a conscious choice, but for you, you're really lucky. You can choose to go to a Chinese school, you can choose to go to an international school, you can choose to study abroad. You get to choose. But my generation barely had any choice. We get picked. I was lucky. The school back then gave me an opportunity to study abroad and offered a 1-year scholarship. So different people will have different opportunities that present themselves. How do you seize your opportunity? That is something to contemplate on. Thank you, Professor. Education, is it about the future? Is it just about this moment? Well, people make different decisions, but ultimately, it's a comprehensive decision to make. To show the gratitude to Professor Yu for joining us in Lingang, we have a student from the 11th grade, Cindy. She made this artwork as a little gift for Professor. Cindy? Cindy, please. Does it look like me? Cindy, would you stand in the middle? Cindy, how long did it take you to make this painting? About a week. Would you like to share about your thoughts and the topic of this painting? I know that you actually wrote a little card. Do you want to read it? Well, the topic of this painting, well, it's inspired by the time we're in. It's a time of mechanical duplication, a time of press culture, and a time of AI. We enjoy the convenience created by information sharing, and our values are constantly being challenged. As Immanuel Kant put it, 2 things fill me with constantly admiration and awe: the starry heavens above and the moral law within. Thank you, Professor, for being a forerunner in education, and thank you for sharing your light. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
刚才有个笑纳真的想
We hope that Professor enjoyed this creative little
是
gift.
非常好，因为
It's a great painting. We all know Cindy as the most outstanding artist in our year and even in the entire school. We know that YCYW Chang has a lot of students with artistic talents, and we encourage them to showcase such talent. Each year we have an art festival in all the campuses. We have a lot of art programs. Emma, you were the moderator, right? Yes, I was lucky enough to moderate several of the art sessions. Well, next year, please join us in the art sessions next year. Emma, will you still be the moderator? Well, if you're okay with that, before you graduate.
好，非常感谢今天各位。
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. Professor shared with us today not just the practical tips about studying abroad and grooming talents, becoming better parents, but also he taught us to think about the nature of education. He showed us the way on how to explore such topics and questions. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you to our guests, parents, students, teachers, and thank you to the audience online. Now on the slide, you see 2 QR codes, which will help you get more information about our events. The QR code to the left is the Yuchang Yuhua organizational WeChat subscription account. You'll be able to receive photos and reports on our events. And the QR code to the right is the one that connects you with future Planet Leadership Series information. If you're interested, please leave your contact information and we will keep you updated. Thank you once again to all of you. Thank you, Professor. We look forward to seeing you again. See you at the next session, all of you. See you.